in the program, but joining us right now, Senator David Blount. He represents District 29, serves as the chairman of the Senate Gaming Committee and the vice chair of the Senate Education Committee. Thanks for joining us today, Senator. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Happy to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. So the 2022 session is in full swing, and it seems like it's been quite an active session, I think, with a number of pieces of legislation meandering their way through the chambers there. What has been kind of front and center for you? Let's talk about education with the teacher pay raise first. We got a Senate version, a House version. Where do you think that goes from here?
Well, I'm optimistic we can get it done. It's a priority for both chambers. It's a priority for both parties. There are differences in the two proposals, but I don't think they're significant, and I hope we can get it done. It's a top priority for our leadership and for me personally, so I hope it can happen. It is a busy session. The two things that are unique about this session are that we have $1.8 billion in federal money that the state has received through the American Rescue Plan, and then we will have a legislative redistricting completed by the end of the year. And then, of course, these tax cut proposals are dominating the debate at the Capitol right now. I just a member of the Senate Finance Committee, just left that committee, which adjourned a few minutes ago, and Senator Harkin's bill passed out. That's the Senate version of the tax cut plan. So there's a lot going on. We got a deadline today, deadline tomorrow, big deadline next Tuesday. It's going to be a sprint for the next 6 weeks.
What's the deadline tomorrow, Senator?
Tomorrow is the deadline for appropriations and revenue bills to be passed off the floor.
Okay. So those that originate in.
Yes,
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
So, no, what you said, George, is exactly right. So for Senate appropriation bills and Senate revenue bills, which are bills that deal with taxes, they need to be passed by the full Senate by tomorrow.
Okay.
And then the next big deadline, which comes mighty quick, is Tuesday, which is the committee deadline for general bills from the other House. So House general bills will need to get out of their Senate committee by next Tuesday and vice versa. And the point I want to make to your listeners who aren't in the minutia of all this is the Mississippi legislature, these deadlines are real deadlines. We finish on time, and we finish with a balanced budget. I mean, this is not like Washington, D.C. And of course, sometimes we fight about stuff, and sometimes things don't work out the way I want it to. But at the end of the day, we're going to finish on time with a balanced budget. And that's the difference between what happens in Jackson and what happens in Washington.
Yeah, it's a great point, and appreciate you for making it, sir, because the state of Mississippi does not have the luxury of saying, well, we spend a whole lot more than we're going to take in. That's okay. We'll just print it or borrow it or whatever the case may be to cover the shortfalls. That can't happen in the state of Mississippi in accordance with law.
That's exactly right. And that leads, I think, directly into this debate about tax cuts. And to me, the folks pushing the House tax cut plan, it is reckless and irresponsible. And it is D.C. math. In Washington, D.C., people can cut taxes and increase spending, and the budget deficit grows and the national debt grows, and they just can print the money. We cannot do that, which means we have got to be careful with our revenue, and we're going to be forced to balance the budget every year. And so the principle that we have based budgeting on since I've been here in the legislature is we use one-time money for one-time expenses. The Senate plan on this federal money does exactly that. It does not invest in funding salaries that we're not going to be able to pay when the federal money goes away. It goes in infrastructure. It goes into buildings. It goes into water and sewer. It's one-time money for one-time expense. The flip side of that argument is if you have a one-time windfall, and we all know this federal money that's been sent directly to the state and the federal money that has been sent directly to taxpayers and by the federal government mailing out checks. We all know that is one-time revenue, and you cannot and you should not eliminate recurring revenue, which is to say the taxes you collect every single year based on a one-time windfall. It's not responsible because 3 years from now, 4 years from now, whatever condition the economy is in, we're going to be back at the Capitol having to balance the budget. And so the main point I want to make is we all know we're in a COVID economy. It's uncertain times internationally. We all know this is one-time federal money, and this is not the time to be making drastic changes to a tax structure like the House plan proposes.
So when you look at the House plan and you look at how those numbers have been extended in the form of a pro forma out and it depends on which model you look at. The LBO's fiscal note contemplated 2 years, but I've seen
Well,
another
we all know the phase in. We all know the phase in is much longer than 2 years, and the LBO does not look far enough into the future, and I think everybody knows.
Right. But I think there's been some third parties, if I'm not mistaken, that have prepared analysis of the House plan that extends out beyond those 2 years. I'm not sure if you've seen that, and just my question is, have you, and what do you think, and is that where your concern is, that we may be looking at a situation that once we get past this initial couple of years where we're sort of funding the reduction in revenue with the cushion we've presently built up, that when we get into the out years that we don't have that cushion and we lack the revenue to cover the expenses?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That is my concern, and I do have numbers which have been produced by the University Research Center, which is part of the State Institution of Higher Learning, and they show that in 10 years we'll be $1 billion in the hole if the House plan passes. That's a report published by the University Research Center at IHL this month on the House bill, and for 10 years from now, they project a total reduction in revenue of $1,007,556,357.
Okay.
And that's what they project.
So you don't share the same.
Short.
Is it fair to say, Senator, you don't share, let's say, the Speaker's optimism that that the economy will be boosted by this plan to the point that revenues collected from sales taxes, for example, would more than offset the reduction in income taxes?
I don't. I mean, if you look at the last 3 governors that we've had in this last decade and a half, Ronnie Musgrove, Haley Barbour, Phil Blount, every single one of them in multiple years had to make mid-year budget cuts. In the case of Governor Barbour, of course, the Great Recession, every one of those governors had to make mid-year budget cuts in multiple years because revenue wasn't coming in. And again, the point I want to make is we've got to balance the budget. And so, and those governors did what they had to do at the time because we could not end the budget year with a deficit, and they were forced to make cuts. And it's just not. This is not the time in this COVID economy to make radical changes to our tax policy, and I think that's what the House bill does.
Is there any appetite or interest, do you feel, under the dome to reduce government spending as a way to mitigate those revenue reductions if that were to occur?
Well, here's what Senator Braun proposed this morning, and I think this is what we should do. We know that we have had the last couple of years a lot more money come in than was projected, a historic amount, more than we've ever had in excess of projections. But I think we all know, certainly the people who've been up here a long time, and Senator Braun's been up here longer than I have, is that is not the norm. So the question is, what should we do with that one-time excess in money? And I mean, it would be like if you make $100,000 a year and your great aunt died and left you $50,000. Should you live next year based on your $100,000 that you earn, or should you plan to live the rest of your life like you make $150,000 a year because you had a one-time windfall? You should plan your life based on what you know your income has been historically, which is, in that case of that example, $100,000. So in the case of the state, what I think we should do with this money is invest it in infrastructure and one-time expenses, because the federal money, and the Senate has released a plan. It's been very transparent. bills have been passed, handouts have been sent out to everybody. Hopefully you can see that out of the House. But we've released a plan for what to do with our one-time federal money. But we also acknowledge, particularly as it relates to water and sewer, and I hope we can talk about this after the break, that's not going to fix all the water and sewer problems in the state. And so where is the additional money going to come from to fix water and sewer? It's going to come from the people who pay their water bills.
Gotcha.
And that's the same
Senator
as
Hank,
tax. That's
hold on to that thought. Yes, sir. Hold on to that thought. We'll take a break right here. We'll be right back. We've got Senator David Blount, Mississippi. We've got Senator David Blount joining us on the line. So, Senator, please continue, sir. We were just talking about the various tax reform proposals, the one from the House, the one from the Senate. You described, I believe, the House plan as reckless. And I asked you if you shared, if you did not share the Speaker's optimism with respect to the economic growth that the state would incur as a result of the House plan, and thus an increase really would be in consumption taxes as we continue to reduce income taxes. The state, effectively, the goal would be to power the state on sales taxes. Right now, we have two major sources of revenue, that's being income taxes and sales taxes. And under this plan, over a period of years, the income tax will be phased out. Starts out by phasing out a good bit of it by increasing the personal exemption rather dramatically, which essentially means, again, the state would be powered by, from a funding perspective, sales taxes, consumption taxes. You don't apparently feel like that would be a good approach.
Well, first of all, I don't think we need to do any of this right now because we all know that we're in a COVID economy and we're in very uncertain economic times, and we don't need to be making permanent changes to our tax structure right now, period. But secondly, I would say I do not agree with shifting the burden from income taxes, which is almost flat in the state of Mississippi, by increasing sales tax, and that's what the House bill would do. It would increase the sales tax. And who does that hurt? It hurts poor people. It hurts people on fixed incomes. It hurts retirees. So I don't agree with the shift of shifting from an income tax, which is not onerous and not out of step with states that have income taxes, to sales tax, increasing the sales tax on folks, and that's going to hurt poor people, working people, and people on fixed incomes and retirees. I just disagree with those.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on where you stood. So share with us where you stand on the Senate proposal. Now, a bill that you informed us this morning passed out of committee will be headed to the floor. Is that correct? Senator Harkin's bill.
Yes, sir. That is correct. That bill passed out of the Senate Finance Committee just a few minutes ago, and for the reasons I just said, I did not vote for it. It will come up on the floor tomorrow based on the deadline. It would phase out the 4% bracket, and it would do, I haven't had a chance to study it completely. It would phase out the 4% bracket. It would send a one-time rebate to folks, and it would reduce the grocery tax.
Right. Okay.
So that's a simplified explanation of the Senate plan.
I think it also included a very small decrease in car tags as well, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
the state
Yes,
portion,
sure.
which is a small amount of money. So you did not support it. You did not support it, and so is that right? Is that what I heard you say? You did not vote for it.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I voted no in the committee.
And what do you anticipate? Do you have kind of a crystal ball there? What do you anticipate is going to happen on the floor? Will that
It will come up tomorrow. I mean, I think it's likely to pass. But again, I do not think that this is a time to make any changes to the tax structure. What I would do with this one-time windfall that we have is I would invest in water sewer systems across the state. Obviously, in the area I represent, Jackson-Byram has serious water problems, but the Senate plan would support water and sewer systems in every single part of this state because, and this was mentioned on the floor, the Senate is allocating a lot of money to water and sewer, but they will tell you, the committee will tell you, we know it's not enough. We know it's not enough. And when the water systems and sewer systems begin to fail, the only place they can get money is by raising water rates. And that is the same as a tax. because you've got to pay it. And you don't, it's a monopoly, and you've got to pay it. And when your water bill goes up to fix the broken water system or the broken sewer system, if you live in a rural area or any place in the state, that is the same as a tax increase. And so what we should do is we should take this one-time money. We could put $1 billion of state money to match the federal money, and we could fix these water and sewer problems for a generation so that water rates won't go up and people have safe drinking water. That's what I think we ought to do.
And so how does that work, Senator? So we're talking about state money, which would be invested in infrastructure, say, inside the city of Jackson, in city limits, state money to a city. Is there kind of a formal, legal, legislative process to make that transfer? How does that work?
Oh, we could appropriate the money. We could
just to the city.
It's our money. And I want to emphasize, obviously it's needed in the city of Jackson, but I want to emphasize our plan what calls for helping every water and sewer system in the state. And the Senate plan for the federal money runs it all through DEQ, which is, they already operate a revolving loan program already. So that's a good place to put it, in my opinion. And we could supplement that money, which we know is not enough, and fix these problems for a generation with this one-time money. Put it in the ground, fix it. I think that's what we ought to do.
So it's my understanding that the budget this year is actually less in terms of spending than last year. Is that correct? I think the report I saw said $6.6 billion versus $7 billion.
In terms of what has passed the Senate, the general fund, you're correct. And so the budget, the half of the budget that's passed the Senate, the House passes half and we pass half and we get together and do one budget. It cuts education. It cuts the corrections department, where we know we need more corrections folks and need to pay them more money. It cuts mental health. It cuts public safety. It cuts the military department. Mm-hmm. The budget, as it stands today, the budget recommended by the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, cuts all these programs at a time when we've got $1 billion in the bank. I mean, I don't understand it. But that's where, and that number may go up as the bill works its way through the process. But as it stands right now, that's where we are.
Yeah, I think Senator Briggs-Hobson said, well, this is a starting point, not the ending point.
That's right.
He being chair of the Appropriations Committee. Yeah.
He's right
All
about that. But I mean, the trick for him, of course, is the responsible thing to do is to treat this surplus money as one-time money and not get ourselves in a situation where we are committed to recurring costs when we don't have this money in 2 or 3 years and we know we won't.
I understand. So one of the questions, Senator, that I'm sure you're aware that has come up concerns this bill that would have increased the so-called office expense of $1,500 a month to members of the legislature for the months that the legislature is actually in regular session, 4 years in the first year of a 4-year term, 4 months, pardon me, and then 3 months of the subsequent years in a 4-year term. So I believe you voted for that, sir. What would you tell people that, hey, we don't see fit to reduce your taxes, but we saw fit in this case? This is the way it's being perceived. I'm just passing that on to increase our pay.
I did vote for that. I think it passed the Senate by a vote of 48-4 or something like that.
I think that's right.
And I would say that what we're looking at across the board is a pay raise for teachers, a pay raise for state employees, a pay raise for just about every elected official in the state, governor, judges, everything else. And legislative pay has not been increased in 27 years. So I think it would be tied to all of those other increases that we're looking at. And I think if you look at when the last time our other elected officials in the state got raises and when the last time the legislature got a raise, which was, as I said, I think it was 27, 28 years ago. And it is in line with what we're looking at for these other folks who will also be receiving raises, including our county elected officials. And I support all of those efforts. I think that for that reason, it came up and passed the Senate, but was held on the motion to reconsider. And so that bill died. Bill died. I don't think there was a House bill. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Well, you conveyed with respect to more sweeping tax reform that you felt like this really wasn't the time to do that, that the timing itself is just bad. I think you noted the COVID economy. We got just about a minute left. Do you not feel that maybe the same applies here? Maybe the timing is, even though you indicated 27 years since you've had a raise, timing is just probably not right for this?
I don't know that I would say that. I mean, the difference, of course, is eliminating the income tax is $2 billion. And there are 174 members of the legislature. So I don't think that's an apples-to-apples comparison.
Works out to about $780,000 a year.
Budget is $2 billion.
Gotcha.
So.
Senator, always a pleasure having you on, sir. Really appreciate your informing us today, and good luck with the rest of the session. We'll talk soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Senator David Blount has been our guest here on Middays. We'll take a